Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TrueLife podcast. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. I hope the sun is shining. I hope the birds are singing. I hope the wind is at your back. I have with me today my friend Jack Cross. Everyone should be checking out the awake.net network. There's an incredible amount of people heading over to that particular platform. Shout out to Lakshmi for setting up something so beautiful and so kind and so rewarding. Check out Jack's work over there. But let me go ahead and just throw out a quick little introduction for my friend Jack Cross here. He walks the line between prophet and poet, mystic and madman. Jack Cross doesn't just write, he conjures. His words are polemics, hallucinations etched in ink, hymns smuggled out of dreams. Whether he's invoking God in back alley verses or decoding the sacred geometry of language, Jack is on a warpath for meaning. This isn't just a conversation. It's sort of a ritual for me. So, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Jack Cross, thanks for being here today, man. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for that introduction. That's my intent.
You know, I think that I can see the intent. And I think anybody that goes over to awake.net and starts reading some of the polemics and starts reading some of your writings, I think that they will also get that intent. And before we got started, you and I were talking about driving. That has been something that both of us did for many years. And you said it helps you with spatial relationships. And I gotta think that helps on language too. Maybe you could just unpack that a little bit for people.
Well, I kind of realized this about spatial relationships because I had a tear or a hole in my retina, which when I first started driving for Uber, I drove 70,000 miles with this hole, and then I got a retina repair. And what I saw when I was sort of without vision or impaired vision, where I had a patch on my eye for a few weeks, is you slow down. And I started to realize why I drive so well is because of my vision. And, I anticipate things in front of me, side of me, back of me. I see everything. You can't be successful as a driver without a comprehensive understanding of what people are going to do and what they ate for breakfast. And so I also have a very good memory. And I think there's a relationship between memory and understanding spatial relationships. And my psychedelic journeys, we talk about expanding our consciousness, but we don't necessarily think spatially. And we go in these sort of archetypal journeys. And what I discovered by journeying was that I saw things very spatially and structurally. And I saw the relationships between the archetypes and geometry, and from geometry to the alphabet, the structure of the letters of the alphabet, which I would say that most people think the shapes of the letters are arbitrary, but we don't even think that. People think about words and letters like fish think about water. We don't. But in this altered state, I would see that, oh my God, this thing that sort of Christianity is talking about is actually encoded in the shapes of letters. And at first I thought that this was my hallucination, that, oh, this is really funny and coincidental. And then when I sort of got a hold of being in an altered state, I realized that, no, this is not just funny, and it's not just coincidental. This is how it is, and you don't know how it is, and your culture doesn't know how it is. So I started writing down why letters are shaped the way they are. It's not arbitrary. In fact, the idea that someone would create an alphabet and have the shapes be arbitrary is just a ridiculous idea. That wouldn't happen. And so what I realized was that what was happening was I was basically like communing with the mind that created these letters. In our culture, which is Christian and Judaic largely, that's where these shapes come from. If you look up the phrase English Latin alphabet, for instance, it says it's related to the Semitic language group. And if you look at the word Semitic, it says it's related to one of Noah's sons, whose name was Shem. A son is a man who created the alphabet. Shem, man. Shem means name. A name is a word. And a Sheman, in my mind, is a word man. And a word man, because in the beginning was the word and the word was God, is a God man. And this is what's happening in this altered state. I was kind of, I'd see these things in the beginning and I just go, no, that cannot be. That cannot be. I would have seen that on TV. I would hear on the radio. Somebody would be talking about it. That just cannot be. And so I had a large red dictionary and I opened it up to, while I was high, to see if we knew this about the shapes of letters. But what happened was all the words just fell apart and I could see their structure. I could see why they were spelled the way they were, and that words are spelled. And a spell is something cast, and a spell is a period of time. And these things about living in a spell made of words, and even the nature of time itself, all started to become understandable to me in a very cosmic way. And I was seeing the way I would define it is you're seeing the logos. You're seeing this idea of Christ consciousness. And the weird thing is that it's inside of the shapes of letters, and my mind was deciphering it in a way that I didn't realize minds could do. I came to psychedelics kind of late in life. I was 33, and I stumbled on some ideas, and met Terence McKenna at a talk at the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles, and the way he talked really blew me. And he was like a large elf. And that's actually what I thought was going to happen when I finally met somebody that had a psychedelic, because I grew up very square. I grew up as an athlete, basically. In high school, I went to church and ran track and cross country. And taking a psychedelic was like the last thing on my mind, the last resort. So I thought that I was going to see elves or aliens or something like that. But instead, what I saw was this stuff about language, that, how it's made is from maleness and femaleness. And it's expressed geometrically as lines. In our alphabet, the letter T, for instance, is an intersection of a vertical and horizontal coordinate. And how this is forming in your mind, how you're realizing it is, you have basically emerged inside of your pineal gland, a cone, and you're disoriented. So how do we orient ourselves? We try to focus, we squint. And when you squint at light, it appears to create the configuration of a cross. And in a normal state of consciousness, we just dismiss that because we know it's an optical illusion. Optical illusion, hallucination, bingo. And so I wasn't dismissing it. And I just my mind kind of automatically threw myself onto this cross made of light in my own mind. And what's happening is you're crucifying yourself on a cross made of light inside of your pineal gland. All vision is conical. When you look at a distance, things appear smaller. So things are always getting smaller. You're always looking kind of conically. And your pineal gland is a light generating organ. And when you squint at light, that's what it does. It converts the configuration of a cross, and you are on it. Most people would not consider their being, their mind, their attention, their vision as part of what they're looking at. But I just very naturally did that and realized that we know how to do this. The human mind understands religion in a different way. You're actually having the experience of crucifixion. We think of it 2,000 years ago, a guy that lived and died on the cross and was reborn and all that stuff. That's how I grew up. But when I started exploring this idea with psychedelics, I saw that, oh, that's a myth. That's a language and a story. And we tell stories. We pass them through time until somebody gets hit by a car or something bad happens, and it rocks their whole world. And for me, it was taking a psychedelic. That, oh, this is a sacrament. I am making my mind, the ment, see in a whole way. Sacra means whole mind, holy mind. And so I thought this was pretty important, and I started writing it down in an altered state. All that stuff that you read to get that little introduction was written in an altered state. And it's very poetic and funny. To me, it's funny. It's all the stuff on the polemics of Jack is really written for people with low attention spans, as they say, because it's very dense. When I first started talking to people about this, they had no context for what I was saying. And if you say a few things, it sounds really weird. But if someone understands the whole thing or they hear it in an altered state, they're like, oh my God, are you talking about this? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So they start to see what you're saying and the implications, because there is a pattern, but people are not interested in logos largely. They don't really understand what it is. If you look the word logos up in the dictionary, it is basically saying the logic of word, how word works, or the person of Jesus Christ. And so what I saw immediately is this idea is something that actually happens to you. And you're, as you comprehend, because that's really what's going on, you're comprehending the significance, the meaning of words. And if God is word, then the letters are his bones. And I kind of felt like what was happening was I was like in a state of geomancy, where I wasn't throwing anything, but I was reading the shapes of symbols, which is not something I would normally do in my former non-psychedelic life. But I saw that my mind works like that. I am deciphering uh, basically light morphing. And that's really the basis of what meaning is in words. We have the word morpheme, morpheme, which is defined as the smallest unit of letters that have intrinsic meaning. Well, this idea of meaning is really interesting. Morph is the word form written backwards, where the P and F transliterate. and fee means to speak. So we get meaning from words by form speaking to us. That's how we're supposed to do it. But nobody does it like that. They Google it or they look in the dictionary. And Google doesn't know this, even though they're owned by a company called Alphabet.
Fate loves irony.
Yeah. So I kind of surrendered to, oh, your mind sees spatially. And so back to driving. Yeah. You can't be a very good driver if you don't understand spatial relationships. And these things, like, we don't have the idea of a sense. We have six senses, and one of them is not spatial relationships. Um, or the, if you've ever driven too fast and experienced the sensation of gravity moving in your vehicle, telling you you're about to flip, and then you have to be very calm and get this situation under control. That's another sense. In my younger years, I would drive pretty fast and safe, but I got in a couple of situations where I could feel the gravity move in the car, and I was like, oh, okay, better slow down.
Yeah.
Better turn more peacefully. But this idea of words, and it really connected me to religion in a whole new way, from the inside. And when I started taking psychedelics, that's really what my goal was, to get on the inside of myself, to find a way to have a spiritual life. And I definitely did that. Terrence used to say, everybody wants to go faster in life, except when they take psychedelics. Then they want to drag their feet because they work. And, nobody wants to walk to New York. But when it comes to this death and resurrection idea, it's not real popular. People want a microdose.
Yeah.
I'm a macro doser.
I love it. I love it. I wholeheartedly agree with so much of it. And I came to a similar idea when under some pretty deep states. Like if you just look at our alphabet, like the letter is part of a word is part of a sentence is part of a paragraph is part of a story is part of a book. Like when we start looking at the way we're taught to think in this incredible linear way, and it's done in like all throughout. Like first you learn the letter, then you learn the word. But what that's doing, at least in my opinion, is stopping us from having any kind of spatial recognition. It's stopping us from really thinking the world symbolically. It's teaching us to see this word as meaningless. It's just a building block right there. Don't think about it any other way. No wonder we're starving for meaning. No wonder there's no more poetry except for a few people on the fringes putting stuff out there. No wonder people are searching for a life beyond themselves. Like we have been starved of meaning our whole life, and it's coming from the way we teach ourselves to speak. What are your thoughts?
Well, one thing that needs to be understood is largely we are educated with public education. It's also called compulsory, meaning forced. So we are forced institutionally to learn a certain way. And the reason that, like, if I were to teach English, I would start with its geometry, from maleness and femaleness expressed vertical and horizontal ordinates designated Y and X. Y and X in genetics are male and female. That's the foundation, male and femaleness. And basically what's happening in your mind is one side of your brain sort of sees in a visual way, and the other side is abstractive. It gives meaning to vision, and you're joining them together. in an altered state. And
That's so beautiful.
yeah, and so then there's the shapes of letters, and then there's morphemes. And morphemes, because of its definition as the smallest unit of letters that have intrinsic meaning, basically is like a rule. It's like, don't look beyond this. If you want to know why a word has meaning, look at the morpheme structure. You can look up what morphemes mean, but you cannot look up why they mean it. And the reason is because it's religious. And a public school controlled by secular fiction has no interest in you having a religious or spiritual perspective of language, because the whole question about government, govern, to steer, means mind, is their gig, their entire thing is to steer your mind and control you. Government has no function but this protection racket. And so, if you understand language, if you understand the word, if you understand the tree of knowledge and of good and evil, it creates a crisis of authority. The state claims its authority from the people, our state, which is a great farce, manipulated by the media. The MED of media means middle, like the MED of medicine and meditation. And the media, the middle, has really betrayed the people. And you're hearing that the media is the enemy of the people. And if you saturate yourself in narratives and see what a linguistic device is, you can see what's going on. And it's amazing what's going on. It's incredible that you can get adults in suits with reputations and degrees to go on TV and lie through their teeth. Wow. So
Yep.
So yeah, that's why English, which I like to call English, is taught the way it is. It's very superficial. And I've never been a teacher of children. I probably break dance with them in the room, but that's the way I'd go. But it would create great difficulty for I think the state. The state, as a secular fiction and even theocratic fictions, really what they're up to is perpetuating themselves.
Yep.
They're not about your enlightenment.
They have no. That's the last thing they want.
Yeah.
They don't want anybody walking around saying like, you know what? I think this is all kind of bullshit, man. What is this history? This his story. What is this?
Right.
Whose story is this?
Yes. Yeah. And also it's a wild thing to have a psychedelic mind and start to dissect. I mean, it's something that your mind does. We crave for meaning. I'm not sure what Maslow's hierarchy of needs are, but I would put meaning at the top. And what I like to say is, in mathematics, the word mean means middle, and there is no middle without a set of coordinates, which is the symbol of a cross. And so you kind of have to start with that, or people people say, I need my space. When you find your space, you need three ordinates to locate yourself in space. It's just a very simple thing. And an ordinary mind would never project themselves onto a cross and add themselves to what they're seeing. That's just ridiculous. You need to be in an altered state to, I mean, an entheogenic altered state with this type of intention to understand that the geometry that you're seeing is symbolic mathematics. And there's this relationship to the shapes and mathematics. And you're basically seeing the math of consciousness, of Christ consciousness, the peak of it.
I love that. Like I think to a lot of my audience, and I'm sure you and some of the circles we run in, it's so amazing to see the sort of geometrical images, sometimes open-eyed, sometimes closed-eyed, at the height of a really high dose of an entheogen. It is a language on some level, and it's you know, it's the thing they call ineffable, but it is this sort of beautiful paisley-filled tesseract that's speaking to you in ways that are beyond words. And I think that is sort of where these insights come from. In your opinion, what is these geometrical images we're seeing in these altered states teaching us how to make connections in the real world? Like, what can you talk about that language of the geometry of these states?
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, they are helping me understand the quote unquote real world.
Yes.
As in, we use these words, but we really don't understand what we're saying. If in the
Yeah.
case of real, for example, RE, raw, the sun comes up again and again and again. RE, RA. RE means again. And AL is a morpheme. It's the base morpheme of language. And what it is your pineal gland is the letter A, which philologists called a ox's head because it first appeared like upside down, like this to the right. And they thought the legs were like horns, and they said it looks like an ox's head. And so we've been repeating that for a long time. No, it's not the ox's head, it's your head. And the L of language is the upper right hand quadrant of the cross that you are creating while trying to understand what you're looking at. This is the feature of a cross, and there's one down here and there's one over here.
Yeah.
And so we use this thing, and together this L and A are a compass and square. And what you're doing is you're measuring relationships in everything. So you have this geometry that has informed you, like this is information. Morph means form. Form is a real thing. We're deciphering and understanding form and the spatial relationships of form in relationship to our mind and how it works and how light works. This is the sort of the relationship with this idea of I am the light of the world, or the idea of light, the sun, S-O-N, S-U-N. It's, somebody a long time ago was paying attention to this where it wasn't lost and it wasn't a dismissed thing. It was part of like what Terence calls the felt experience of your life. It's here in our lives, and we're in it. We're awake in it. When I first started taking psychedelics, I saw them as a tool of becoming spiritual, that somehow I could get inside my body. And I think the smallest poem I ever wrote was, "This is it. We're doing it now." It's happening all around us, and all of the construction of civilization is based on these ideas, and people are unaware of it. People today want to destroy it. They have no idea even what it is. Non-binary, you don't understand biology. You don't understand this idea of two. Why is the second letter of the alphabet a B? Why is that the beginning? Why does it have these two lobes? So, to measure something, you need two things. One cannot measure itself. One just is. And so in like crucifying myself, which is a very natural thing to do, on a cross made of light inside of my pineal gland, as strange as that sounds. That's how I found this idea of this LA morpheme, the compass and square. If you look compass and square up in the dictionary, it says they're instruments of measurement belonging to a carpenter. Well, you can read that out here in the world and you can go, okay. But in an altered state, you know who the carpenter is. It's you. You're the carpenter. You crucified yourself on a cross made of light in your mind, found the carpenter's tools, the compass and square, and are now measuring everything. And that totally informs your entire life. People are impaired. You repair. What are the pair? Nobody ever asks.
So true.
Yeah, it's maleness and femaleness. It's spirit inside of matter. It's the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine joined together in your mind by the letter J, which is basically a third ordinate. And it's an I tilted to the right. If you look it up in the dictionary, it says ostensibly, which is a fantastic word. It is an I tilted to the right, and the French put on what's called a minuscule at the bottom to differentiate it from an I tilted to the right. Ostensibly means purportedly, not actually. The minuscule at the bottom is a mimic of the pharaoh's crook. In ancient Egypt, the crook, which is held like this on the sarcophagus, is the supreme symbol of religious authority. And that's why I talk so much about the letter J, the 10th letter of the English Latin alphabet. These things are funny because they are, for instance, the letter J, it wasn't placed in that position arbitrarily. It was placed in that position for people like me to laugh, to have a good time in an altered state. That, this is why the Buddha laughs. This is what's going on. Jesus begins with a J, Joshua, Y's transliterate into J's, dies on a cross, vertical and horizontal coordinates. The punishment is archetypal. There's lots of ways to kill people. Why would you go through this thing of taking wood and creating crosses? Because you are mimicking. It's an archetypal punishment. You're mimicking who this person is. And you're seeing in your mind that what it does is decipher the meaning of myths that are passed down through time in stories. It's like Christmas. We bring a Christmas tree in the house, a pine tree. Pine trees are conifers. I'm talking about pineal glands, pine, A-L, morpheme. We get our presents from the base of pine trees. Guess what grows at the base of pine trees in symbiotic relationships with? We wrap the phosphenes of the sacrament around the pine tree. We have a five-pointed star or an angel at the top of the pine tree. Why? The Christmas ornaments, all that, which I guess, pure Christianity, whatever that is, considers all of that pagan. Well, Christianity is merged with nature. It is, it's the same thing. It's the church, once again, trying to superimpose itself upon a natural and astronomical reality that you now, in an altered state, start to decipher that, okay, we're on a sphere flying through space. And there's these stories, and you're becoming that thing. Anybody that's really interested in this type of journey or perspective, I would just say that mine started by seeing these things kind of naturally, just organically. That I started writing poetry because I would see these things, and I did it in my youth too, because I can sort of see the continuity of just me as a person, as a child. I used to have these things where um, it's funny because you were saying you were playing Pink Floyd, where well, there's this song that talks about seeing something out of the vision, the peripheral vision of his mind. Well, I used to have that experience when I was a child, and my conscious mind would see it, and I would like hold my breath, and my conscious mind would like turn to see what I was seeing inside of my own mind that I thought was so outrageous, but my normal awareness would cause it to dispel. So I would have to kind of trick myself, like in a dream. I
Yeah.
would I would say like, "This is a good dream," and I would try to remain asleep in the dream. Um, and so I kind of see that people were magic at once when they were children, and this magic was discarded to become adults. But in our culture, our cult, uh,
Hmm.
becoming an adult is not. It's not something that happens in a good, loving way. Um, Initiation in it, initiation into adulthood in Western civilizations are humiliation um, uh, rituals.
Yeah.
We humiliate people to
Yeah.
see if they're dumb enough to be in our club. um, and so, I saw by taking psychedelics, I was initiating myself, I was baptizing myself. This was no longer symbolic, this was it. And I I realized real late in life, like 33, 34 years old, that yeah, I, it's because of psychedelics that I am becoming an actual adult, a man.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing to be a man for. That you have been able to commune with God, um, the ultimate sin. That's what you're crucified for. Even saying it, in our culture, it's something that happened a long time ago to this one dude. Um, but I'm here to inform you this is a story. uh, there's a reason story begins with an S and a T, uh, a pictogram of a
Hmm.
serpent tree. Um, I like to say that these are the first two letters of structure, and they're hiding in the middle of mystery. And
So beautiful.
yeah, and
Yeah.
at the end of quest in Christ for a reason, because at the end of your quest, you are not questing, you're not searching anymore. You are the serpent and you are the tree, and you're crucifying yourself on a cross made of light. And in those moments, you have this sensation of transcending time. What is the promise of Christianity? Eternal life. Where is eternity? It's not at the end of linear time, it's here, right now. And that's why I say this is it. We're doing it now, right now. Um, so, yeah, time is a big factor. And this is the interest of wizards in time. Let me shut this window.
Yeah. No worries.
Uh, this ain't Fargo, but somebody's out there cutting a tree. Um, so, yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Gospel of Thomas, where he talks about our kingdom is all around us.
Mhm.
It's my Father's kingdom is all around us and nobody sees it. I think
Right.
he's referring to language on some level there. Like it's all around it. You're making it. You are it.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of courage to die to yourself. It takes a lot of courage, and sometimes you'll be lucky enough to have the world take everything from you. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the initiation. That
Yeah,
is your opportunity to rebuild a relationship with language that you've never had before. Is that seem like a fair thing to say, or what are your thoughts?
totally, totally. Yeah. And what is fair? Uh, you know, fair is middle, and
Mm,
there is no middle
yeah.
without these ordinates. So it is fair, and this is, this is what I point people to is that the letters are artifacts um, of an altered state, and they're abstractions of an altered state. They're taken apart. The ST, the serpentry, is the thing that is happening to you, and the AB, the alphabet, is the negation of um, AB in front of a word, like we're having an abnormal conversation about the alphabet, is not normal. This is not a normal conversation. What people also don't realize is that speech, alphabets, language, it is all metaphysical. It's not physical. It's spiritual. This is its connection with God. The word is God, and it's the letter C is related to the letter G, and if you look at the word code and just knock the E off, um, what you're seeing is that God is embodied in the shapes of the letters that are the bones of the words that you are at some late time in your life discovering, oh my God, there's meaning in the shapes of letters. Like, who doesn't look at a car and see the masculinity or femininity of the shapes?
Yeah.
We do this all the time. If as a man, uh, and as an old man now, um, I understand geometry. I understand beauty. I understand the feminine. Um, and I do it from the masculine perspective because I'm a guy.
Of course.
And
It's not.
one time, this just brings something funny up.
Yeah.
One time I went on a journey on 5 grams of psilocybin with Lakshmi and another girl in what's called the Parunaweep in Zion National Park. And we parked our car on a deer trail, and we walked down the sandstone thing about a mile into this creek, and then we started walking on the creek, and we ate the mushrooms at the car, and we thought we were going to go on a hike. Nope. We were going to sit down.
Right.
And as these things as the journey started to wear off a little bit, we realized it was getting dark and we really weren't prepared for this. And I grabbed their packs and said, let's go. We're out of here. I was like, DEFCON 2, DEFCON 2, let's go. And we walked up the stream. It was a dry creek. And I realized, oh my God, we walked on sandstone. There's no trail. There's no nothing. And but I found my last steps where we came off. We turned left. I walked straight to the car, and this girl said, "Can you drive?" And I said, "I don't know." I sat down in the seat, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm a guy. This is fantastic." And so I drove 5 miles on this deer road to the regular road back into Springdale. Really funny.
Yeah. I remember being up, me, my buddy Craig, and my sister one time. We went to a Dead show at Autumn Stadium, and great show. Ended up picking up like a sheet of blotter, and on the way back, we stopped off at these state parks. And I'll never forget that, like, we've been dosing quite a bit back in those days. And so we had a little bit of a tolerance, and I took a pretty big dose, man. I took like a 5-strip. And then we had hiked way out, and we were out, like, I think it was at Castle Crags, like way up in Northern California. I remember just being like, it was so beautiful. Like, I remember like walking, there's this tree that had fell down and braced these two parts of the canyon. And like, I walk across it, and it was so magical. But then we're sitting with my friends, and we're sitting down. And then like, I look down and I realize I don't even see a trail. I have no idea where I am. I just look down and I'm like, hey guys. And they're like, what? I'm like, do you see a trail down here anywhere? Everyone's like,
Mhm.
dude, we have no idea.
Right.
But to be totally lost in nature,
Uh-huh.
there's something so magical about it. I mean, we were at the campground. We were probably about a mile or two away. And, we just waited for things to sort of slow down a little bit, and we found our way back. But there's something so magical about being lost in yourself, in the world of nature, and
Mhm.
understanding what the environment is telling you,
Right.
decoding language or decoding the environment in a way that is beyond language. There's no
Mhm.
words. Sometimes you can't even speak at the heights of these trips. You're just blah, 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 you're just mumbling things, but somehow everyone knows what you're saying, or they think they do.
Mhm.
But it's a real exercise in communication and language and understanding your environment. So
Mhm.
it is a great story, man. It's not for the faint of heart. Like, it's hard to lose yourself. It's really difficult to be completely lost in an altered state of consciousness in a strange place. And it's probably not the safest thing either.
Mhm.
But for those willing to do it, I think you can get a real exercise in language and understanding and communication. But it takes
Mhm.
courage.
Yeah, um, it's just beautiful, and like an experience like
Yes.
that. What I learned was I am competent. I'm
Mm,
going to find my way out of this,
yes.
yeah, and people are relying on me to do it.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, there's a lot of self discovery uh, in those experiences. Most of my journeying has been on my living room floor,
Yeah.
and it's safe. That's what I
Yep.
recommend to
Yep.
people.
Go it
Journey,
alone.
yeah, journey inside, where I, I almost all of my journeys have been with the I Ching and the dictionary, and I have seen this outrageous mind in the I Ching and in the dictionary, that how our words are constructed. I look at the world today, and it is such a mess. It is
Yeah.
so incredible. If we get out of this without nuking ourselves, it will be an absolute miracle. And we need a miracle. And what I think is the fundamental risk of our civilization is this idea that we don't take sacraments. We don't, we have made the key to our existence illegal,
Mm.
because we're being operated by secular fictions. And so, uh, having greater intelligence, which is what you get, um, is so critical. Crucial is the word. You need a cross. And we're at a crossroads in this country and in the world. And it's going to be very fascinating to see if this shit show can straighten itself out, because it is incredible what is going on. Um, I really look at psychedelics and altered states, the sacramental experience, the entheogenic experience, as the solution. The answer, my friend, is still blowing in the wind, and and it's. I feel so grateful that I stumbled on this idea that these things that I consider drugs or sacraments in my youth, or drugs, or uh, I don't know what I thought, psychedelics, whatever that word meant to me. Um, um, are not what society would have us believe. Society would have us believe a lot of things, and this is what psychedelics are also good for, is unraveling all the cultural programming.
Yes.
Because you see that the human mind and the human body and nature, being in nature, it has a different program. Just reading the I Ching from a Western perspective, you see something else. Like for me, the way I grew up, I'm always going forward. Progress is always moving forward. I see in the Ching, not so much. And that this person, this writer, is coming from an arbiter position of the whole thing, and showing the sequences and consequences of action. And that is really mind-boggling, that this can be written down.
Jack, what do you think? Like you saw like the last wave of psychedelics, like are we in the late 50s heading into the 60s? Is the best predictor of future behavior past relevant behavior? Is there a, what do you see as far as similarities happening with this particular wave that happened in the last wave, or maybe some of the differences? What are your thoughts on how this thing shakes out?
Jeez. To tell you the truth, I feel disappointed in psychedelics, in the psychedelic culture. I feel disappointed in the monetization of consciousness, the monetization of the sacred. This is when I first started this and discovered it. That's not what I thought was going to happen. I believed and still believe in this archaic revival of Terence McKenna. I think that's our only salvation as a species, whether it's technological. We have to know ourselves in a deeper way. And, I'm sure there are benefits to microdosing. I don't know what they are, but I would say people need to love themselves and love an idea of God, think that it's possible, and have some courage. I, you know, I, I didn't smoke marijuana. I didn't drink. I've never even smoked a cigarette. I was very anti-drug, and largely still am. Um, um, but I see that these sacraments are the way out and the way in.
Yeah.
And people have to face themselves, and they're not going to do it on social media. Um, they're not going to do it in a totally surveilled world. Um, we must be very interesting creatures to want to surveil every single thing that we do. Um, so we'll see. I think ultimately I need to be an optimist. For me, myself, and I. um, uh, the experience has been so powerful and so transformative for me that this is where I live. I've taken many, 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 many journeys, and I love that space. And I hear this kind of idea about integration. Well, folks, what you're doing is you're going into this altered state, and you are grabbing stuff. You're saying it out loud. You're writing it down. You're becoming functional in this altered state, because it's, I think to most people, not even comprehensible that anybody would want to write anything down in an altered state, because you can, for some people, barely function. And a lot of people come out, oh, that was beautiful, that was outrageous, that was terrifying. I'm going to do this again. What time is it? When can I do this again? Um, but I look at it like a job. Um, I I I like to journey and take things out to tell people that don't have the courage to do this, and most people don't. The number of people, the percentage of people in America, for instance, I think it's like 1%. And I have never spoken to anybody about that knew anything about this logotic idea that letters have shapes, and shapes are geometric, and geometry is symbolic mathematics. And there is a relationship between English, of all things, not Sanskrit, not Hebrew, English, our language, um, to spirituality. Um, and so what I do is when I talk to people, I concentrate mostly what you see in the polemics is on just a few morphemes, because this is complex. One of the phrases that our culture has for this type of understanding is Christ complex, or Messiah complex. They basically have turned it into a pathology because of our dualistic, polar religion, that this thing exists as a pathology. PAT, Pater, Father, the study of the path to the invisible, your dis-ease. Okay, you can call it pathology. I'll call it a path. And what I no longer let myself or my knowledge or my perspective be defined by the ignorant.
Mm.
You maybe have had experiences where you're talking about psychedelics, or you say some strange thing to somebody. Oh, you must be high. You must be smoking something. All these pejoratives. Well, I know why there's a J in pejorative, and that's it's really funny to think about psychedelics being lumped in with narcotics, and for very good reasons. Narcotics are not that much of a threat to a secular fiction, but psychedelics are, because sentience is the opposite of the secular. Secular, not sacred; fiction, not true. The body that makes these things illegal is not sacred and does not exist. It's an agreement between people, and those people are completely ignorant. Although they knew enough to protect themselves from this experience. I see it going on every day. Take the case of iboga and ibogaine. We have a cure for addiction. In this country, we're experiencing 2 Vietnam wars every year. 100,000 plus people are dying unnecessarily from fentanyl and everything else. It's completely unnecessary. But the secular fiction will not accept iboga and ibogaine because of its psychological effects. It's a two-front thing, as sacraments are. It's part sacrament, part medicine. The medicine is changing you physiologically, resetting your dopamine receptors to a pre-addictive state, and you are simultaneously seeing what has made you addictive, why you were addictive. And the state and chemists, they would like to play with this idea, and they would like to play with LSD, figure out a way to make LSD beneficial without communing with God. This is the whole thing of the psychedelic, what's going on with MAPS. This is about the monetization of ecstasy. MDMA. Well, there is no ecstasy without God. So you better get used to this. You can't do it. It cannot be done. There is no ecstasy without God. There is no X. X, 10, Roman numeral for 10, a crisscross, Christ, cross, intercardinal ordinates. In relationship to what? In relationship to cardinal ordinates. The cross and the crisscross, the Christ cross, is you. It's the third ordinate turned at 45 degrees, going out. We exit when we leave. We enter across, and we exit when we leave. It's all there in our words. You really start to see, when you look at the geometry of it, the significance of not only words, but our existential, our X is tensional situation. That, yeah, you're in a body and you're going to die. That's a fact, Jack. But in the meantime, you can commune with the two hemispheres of your own mind. You can join them together. You can climb Jacob's ladder. This is why I talk about this J and the LA morphine. It's so important. I call these two things, these two morphemes, JA and LA, the key morphemes, I guess, besides S and T, of the English Latin alphabet, because you need them to spell Jacob's ladder. And that's really what I'm talking about. I'm writing on Jacob's ladder. So the A is your pineal gland, and the J is the pole inside of it, like this. That's the minuscule. And the LA morpheme is the compass and square. And you are entering your pineal gland and measuring everything. And you're measuring yourself. And this is the healing part of medicine, the middle sin man, is that you see your past, you see your consciousness, you see your child consciousness, you see your consciousness in every iteration. And you have to deal with that. What an idiot. Like, oh, and, in psychedelics, I really feel like there's a before and there's an after. And that's the fulcrum of my life, before and after psychedelics. And so, this question, back to your question, psychedelics are powerful, and they're going to be here long after MAPS is trying to understand the definition of legend, which means saint. It's how you read a map. It's best to read the map from a place of enlightenment. SA of saint, legend means saint, is the base morpheme of shaman. SA man, I'm saying stuff, or saying stuff. SAY, knock the Y off. You're a say man, you're saying. It's related to language. And IN is a directive, in, and T's across. The saint is the word, the spirit, in across. That's the saint. And it's best to speak about the nature of reality from that place, not being completely ignorant of how language works. LA, NG is a morpheme meaning gnosis, the knowledge of the LA morpheme, the compass and square. You found it. You crucified yourself. You found the compass and square. You realized what's going on, how this works, to whatever degree. And you're on the path of embodying it, personifying it. It's like the spirit of the word has entered your mind, and now you are becoming the personification of word, logos, this Christ consciousness idea that was an idea. We have ideas, we have implications.
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing this out here deductively. This state of consciousness is not deductive. It's a disintegration of who you are so far, and a reintegration into what you just saw. You now have this cosmic metaphysical information of whatever it is. It could be one thing that you bring out of an experience. So I am not happy with the way things are going with the monetization of psychedelics, but that will pass, and humanity will go on, and it will flower again. I see how they shut it down in the '60s. I mean, the state, the secular fiction, was totally threatened by what was happening. Yeah. And so the CIA introduced heroin. At the time we were fighting in Vietnam, Air America and the CIA went over to Colombia and Laos and bombed the triads and made a deal with one of them and picked up all the heroin and flew it into the United States and distributed it to the Black community to destroy them. And it affected the '60s, the psychedelic movement. That was, for a moment, a renaissance of the archaic. And it's still going on in our minds and hearts. But I am not into the monetization aspect of psychedelics. I'm also not so much into the AI advent, although we use AI to make images. But I can do the math of AI, and I see its bias. Try to talk about psychedelics on AI. It will not allow it. It's created by people. It has its bias, and I kind of feel a little bit like Job in the Lawnmower Man.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, getting inside the mainframe, and what does Pierce Brosnan say? Job, don't you understand that psychosis and Christ consciousness is the final stage of psychosis? Yeah, right. Yeah, psychedelics have nothing to do with psychosis. In fact, because consciousness, high consciousness, is so forbidden. These are the accusations made. It's the secular fiction and the theocratic fiction protecting itself from what it is preaching, but brought into your mind, into time. You are the story, and it is a projection. Good and evil is a projection of the human mind. It's not a story out here. Well, it is a story out here, but what you see is that it's a story out here because it's a projection of the architecture of our mind, which began in a garden with a sacrament, with an invisible sacred masculine and a serpent and a male and a female. Take all that apart and you have your mind. Story begins with an S and a T, a serpent and a tree. It's just the way it is. Yeah.
It's so beautiful to me to think about the shape of words, the language we use, and also to see the spells that are put on us. I was thinking yesterday, I think everybody in the world of PTSD has it wrong. Like if you're studying PTSD, like you are trapping people in a disorder. Like how can anybody ever get out of PTSD? Why don't we call it like post-traumatic growth opportunity? Like if we change the language around it, if you have a disorder, all of a sudden it's your fault. You have this disorder. And
Mhm.
you don't understand the language of it, but doctors and the society, and they're really happy to trap you in a disorder or something out of the DSM-5. Like here's this label, carry this thing around now, buddy. And like you're stuck with this thing. Like,
Right.
but what if it's not a disorder? What if it's a growth opportunity? That fundamentally changes all the therapy going forward. But too bad you already have an industry built around it. And then you start thinking to yourself, oh, it's not a bug, it's a feature. We
Mhm.
want the disorders because then we can have the doctors, and then we can have the nurse, and then we can have all these people making money around this one individual. And let's go find more people that are sick. This guy has it. Now this guy has it. Now this girl has it. Look at all this money coming in. This is fantastic. But
Right.
it just ruins us. Like just change the language of diagnosis. Let's change the actual and call it what it is. It's a growth opportunity. Congratulations. Now you can have the ritual. Congratulations. Now you have an opportunity to become the person you're supposed to. Like it's not a bad thing, and everyone has it. And we're looking at it like it's a disaster, like it's an awakening. Like look at this, this is amazing.
Right. Yeah. It's something that you have to move through. It's a
Yeah,
spiritual opportunity. Psychedelics, in a way, high doses, um, are at times absolutely terrifying because
yeah,
you're a person. Like the way I looked at it um, was when I started seeing this alphabetic stuff, which is almost immediately. Um, I thought, oh, you were in so much trouble. You are seeing something that no one knows about, and um, you're, I mean, you have archetypes. You're seeing religion. You're drenched in geometry. I mean, I've had to get to the bathroom by feeling the wall. Where is the bathroom? Or one time, for some dumb reason, I moved the entire bed over to the stereo. and, and,
that's
and then
so awesome.
when I came down, I was like, why didn't I just move the stereo? Mr. Spatial Relationships. Um, but uh, yeah, I, I mean, look at the idea of crucifixion. This is not like an easy thing to do in our culture. It's a
Yeah,
pretty bad thing, and so there's a resistance for people. That's why I think people microdose,
yeah,
is they want to be part of the psychedelic movement. They want to be psychedelic. They want to be mind manifested, but taking small amounts does not manifest your mind. It may have some beneficial aspect, um, but it is not a mind manifested, spirit, soul manifested situation that you now, as a ordinary person, average Joe, have to deal with.
yeah,
And that's, it's like jumping on a freight train and realizing that you got to make it up to the engine because there's no one there and you don't know how to drive this thing. And you get in there and you realize, oh, we do know how to drive this thing and we're going to be okay.
yeah,
This was our job in the first place, and that my entire miserable, pathetic life was a trick to get me to do this.
it's so true, man. It's so true.
Yeah. But it's good. It's good to have fear. It's good to be responsible and be concerned about things. The two things that I was interested in when I discovered, I mean, on the practical aspect of psychedelics, was that they were not addictive, and that the LD50, which I knew nothing about, is extremely high. You're not going to die by taking mushrooms. So those are my two concerns. And I thought, well, whatever this is, um, I'm going.
Yeah,
Um, Terrence. I also, in the beginning, what really happened to me is I was in a reference library and I stumbled on the Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, and
Allegro.
yeah, and I read the first 3 chapters in the library. It's a reference library, and I walked out of there with my hair on fire, and I hired a book buyer to finder to buy the book for me. And then I started reading everything I could on ethnobotany. And because I was so square, I mean, I didn't know a single person. And I would talk to my friends, and all of which I lost. I lost all of my friends, and I was a yuppie at the time. I owned a bunch of messenger services in California, and after 9 months, I finally had somebody have mercy on my poor soul, and I bought 10 grams of mushrooms, and I took 5 on a Saturday night, and that was it. I could not believe that could happen to me. And I saw all of this really funny stuff about language, and I laughed the entire time. I thought it was absolutely hilarious and coincidental. But I could not speak. And my girlfriend at the time was taking care of me, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. And I had this sensation of my diaphragm quivering in my stomach, above my stomach. And I thought, the next time I do this, I'm going to push it down with my breath to try to get this laughing under control. And that worked. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't so funny anymore. That you're seeing things that you don't know, you're not supposed to know, your society doesn't want you to know. And you're understanding polarity, you're collapsing polarity. In our stories, we have the protagonist and the antagonist. In religion, we have the devil and Christ, and they're coming together, and you're realizing that you're it. This is a projection of good and evil. The devil is the shaman. The Christ is the shaman, and you're it. All of the roles, these are all made up. They're all projections of human consciousness. We've diced them up. We've dismembered ourselves and our wholeness. These are my 2 favorite motifs: crucifixion and dismemberment, and rememberment. And MEM in Hebrew is a wave represented by water. This is why we're baptized in water, to remember what we are. And that's why I say I baptized myself, I initiated myself, I crucified myself, because there's no one in the world to do it for you, not even anybody to tell you this is what it's about. This is the secret of secrets.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I want to get to a couple comments here, and then we will figure out what we got going on. But let me just get these people on board right here. Robert Sean Davis, you are a mastermind. Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk to you. Here's what he says. He says, very thankful for all the precious and amazing articulations being shared. You are both incredible teachers, clearly being utilized to share wisdom. Thank you for the compliment. While there are many overlays to describe reality, I would submit that there are further dimensional layers that exist to stimulate the entanglements that offer higher levels for navigation. Even the chaos in the world today will be subjected to radical miracles for reconciliation. It appears no matter how high up the ladder we climb, our empathy adapts. Our empathy adapts to the awareness level of, new comment. Thank you, Robert. AI adapts to awareness level of the user on a special relativity basis, mind-blowing, and even minimal time can overcome perceived bias factors. It is pure representation of the dimensional separations of our entanglements, and often acts as a mirror of the mask of our identity projections towards power, structures, and possibilities. Robert, Sean Davis, this is why I love you, man. This is mind-blowing to think about. And I know that I'm kind of coming up on a hard break right here, and it always happens when I'm right in the middle of an epic conversation. Jack Cross, this has been amazing. I know that this is the first of many conversations we're going to have, but before I fully land the plane, where can people find you? What do you have coming up and what are you excited about?
They can find me at awake.net or jaxcross@gmail.com. If they want to talk about letters or anything.
Yeah.
We have one thing coming up, which at Awake, which is a talk about ibogaine and addiction during the MAPS conference.
The 17th, right?
Yeah, you can check that on awake.net. We're putting together the speakers right now. And that's about it. We're just, working on our website all the time, and we have addiction coaches, and we're talking about consciousness, the alphabet, all the various aspects. So that guy, are we going to talk about that?
We're gonna run out of time. I'm actually got Patrick and Michelle coming right up after this. So
okay.
I think they're gonna be speaking on Iboga at the event on the 17th.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay,
and
great.
But yeah, we should definitely get together and talk about this. We should bring Robert on. I'll contact you guys together. He's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of us. He's an amazing guy. So
right, I like what he said. He said it very succinctly, and hopefully, it's like the movie Sphere. It's like a reflection. Again, we created it. It's a projection of our consciousness, and right now it happens to be pretty ridiculous. So, okay,
it's so true. Jack, it's a brilliant conversation. I truly appreciate
sure.
all the stuff you're writing about. I really enjoyed the conversation. We'll come back and we'll do more. And I think that people should be aware of awake.net. Like it's really it's about to blow up, in my opinion. There's so many incredible creators over there. And Lakshmi and yourself, thank you so much for putting it together. I can't wait to start carrying much more of my content on that side. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jack, hang on briefly afterwards, but to everybody else within the sound of my voice, I hope you have a beautiful day. Go check out Jack's links, and that's all we got for today. Aloha.
Thanks.